Dear spectators, lovers of the movies, it is my pleasure and honor to address to you on the occasion of the screening of Lithuanian classic film The Girl and the Echo, directed by Arūnas Žebriūnas. I would like to express my gratitude to organizers of the Film O'Clock International Festival for organizing the event, and I wish them a great success. Cinema came to Lithuania in 1897, when the first public cinema session took place in Vilnius Botanical Garden. Since 1905, the first cinemas were opened in Lithuania. There are three periods in the film history of Lithuania. From 1897 to 1941, when first Lithuanian films were produced. First film companies were established, and training of professional filmmakers has started. I would like to mention just one name, Vladislav Starevich, who lived and created in Lithuania in the beginning of the 20th century. He is known as a pioneer of volumetric animation, famous for his animated cartoons using bugs as dolls. Second period, 1941-1989, when Lithuania was occupied by the Soviet Union. Film production and distribution was controlled by the Soviet authorities. Under the strict censorship, new generation of Lithuanian film directors and actors emerged. Lithuanian creators were able to bypass censorship and speak artistic language to the audience. Therefore, films about children and their world were made especially often. One of them you will watch this evening. Films directed by Vytautas Žalakevičius, Arūnas Žebriūnas, Raimondas Vabalas, Algimantas Puipa were awarded by many international awards. Modern period started in 1990, when independence of Lithuania was re-established. Various small studios and new generation of directors have emerged. Though they were free in their creative work, they had to face with new challenge, financing problems. Nevertheless, spectators all around the world enjoy films directed by Šarūnas Bartas, Arūnas Matelis, Janina Lapinskaitė, and others. Three short films directed by new generation you will be able to watch during the Film Festival O'Clock. Enjoy watching.
Let's see the context and also what do you think about the film, Cristi? How it was received for your side?
Well, it's a beautiful film, and when I say beautiful, I mean both aesthetically and story-wise and character-wise. It's also, when Madame Ambassadeur told us about the big amount of children and pre-teenagers and teenagers films that were being done, I was a bit surprised because you rarely see pre-teen films that are not, pure entertainment, or how almost everybody had it in the former Soviet part of the Iron Curtain. Cautionary tales. Kids, don't do these wrong things that these kids are doing because bad things will happen to you. This is actually, it feels like a pure film. It's like a bubble that encapsulates the last days of a summer holiday. It's there is something neo-realistical about it, and I don't say this just because it's in black and white and it's regular, almost poor people involved in the story. It's some sort of compassionate look into some things that to many people can be mundane, because this is a film about growing up, about just being in the last summer holiday as a kid. It doesn't have a narrative engine. It's not an adventure. It's not something terrible happening to any of the characters. It's just this interaction that is beautifully written and shot, and also beautifully acted, because it's kid actors. They're like 10 years old, I think, all of them. I'm not sure. It's interaction in between a girl and a group of boys. There is also a very, very realistically portrayed web of interactions in between the boys, because it's the leader of the gang and the ones that also want to be, you know, alpha males in the gang. And it's a girl who's actually smarter and uncompromising towards their kiddie stuff. It's interesting because sometimes you wish cinema generally would pay more attention to such moments in adolescence or pre-adolescence, but generally we get entertainment. And this is more towards the art house cinema, because it also looks wonderful. There are some very, very stylistical choices there. It's this is, I would put it on the Soviet school of filmmaking, which is one of the best, if not the best in the world. It's a certain structure to sequences and to frames and to putting characters in the frame and moving them and exploring this actually not extraordinary seashore where they spend the holiday. And it can also be very interesting from a psychological point of view, because it's honest. There is an honesty to it. I mean, yeah, these are the kids. Kids can be mischievous, kids can be sometimes brutal, kids can trick other kids to do or not do stuff. Kids can interact and can understand more than they generally get credit. This is not the Harry Potter territory. But this is not the general realistic approach to, oh, let us give compassion to these poor kids, that generally in most films now exist just as a shape, not as a character. And somehow it's very nice to see that this resonates so well. It's 64. It's a film that was in cinemas in 64. This resonates so well with what is going on in France and in Italy, which were on the eastern side of the western side of the Iron Curtain, because somehow you can relate it to Quatre Cents Coups by Truffaut. You can also relate it to what Rossellini and what Pasolini were doing, looking at some people without overplaying the drama or the problems or the hard conflict that leads to a good script. Treating things in a light manner that results in great cinema, because it is a piece of great cinema. And it's also, I would use poetic, not because it's abstract or you know, just the visuals. It's wonderfully shot, and it's I found out about this writer I'm not familiar with, but most probably he was huge in the Soviet Union. This is one film. It's 1 hour and a bit, like 1 hour and 6, 1 hour and 10.
Yes, 1 hour and 5 minutes. Yeah.
That starts with a short story, and it's very nice as somebody who sees a lot of films that use written material, short stories or novels. It's very rewarding to see that the director and the script team understood this bubble that needed to be created for the film to function, to be touching, to be visually beautiful. But it's like a bubble. It's one moment when, if this girl and one of the boys were 2 years older, it would be the start of a love affair, but they don't know about love, and it's not a love affair. It's just one moment when they realize that there is something there in their relationship that is deep. But it's not a love film. It's not a love story. It's just a moment in time.
Yeah, as for me, I think it works a lot on visual terms, because it's a very, I mean, every frame it's a piece of, you know, like it's a piece of art itself, and then like through the editing and everything is very carefully made. So yeah, I could say it's like a jewel, you know, something very precious that we have. But in the same time, there is a story, but it's just very, maybe this is what you say, that poetic in terms of you have a narrative, but it's not, you know, like adventure, as you said, that other films with teenagers or with children are, you know, like made. But in Romania, though, in those times, do we have uh, such films? Because yeah, for me, it also reminds me Către Sancup. So it's something that came into my mind too. But in Romania, I don't have a title, a Romanian one. With
Well, this is an interesting question, because we had films that were for kids, but were not actually about kids. I mean, we had the Veronica series, and we had the Dumbrava Minunată, and we had some films that were created like cartoons. So there's a lot of scenography, a lot of costumes, a lot of set design. And somehow I think they marked generations of kids. But a film to have this courage to actually look at childhood as it ends, I doubt we had, because this is a very laid back way of putting kids on film. And we tended to amuse them, like, you know, Pacala and all the comedies and folk tales. And maybe Pistruiatul would fit somehow. Maybe.
Maybe I don't think so, but yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but it's the closest we can get.
Yes, yeah, but
Right?
yeah, I'm glad that we could include this, because it's something like new for us in terms of classics, in terms of these like Sovietic films that were you know, full of propaganda and everything else, but not, you know, like these kinds of emotions, and this is something else. And yeah, I am glad that we include it.
Yeah, we could use it as a very good example for this talk we had earlier today about what cinema heritage really is, because this is a part of a cinema heritage. And I think, I'm actually pretty sure it's not a known film across cinephile circles in Europe, because some of these small countries from the Soviet Union did not actually start to valorize all their archive and cinematheque films. And it's good we have it. It's very good we have it, because it's a film with a soul and with a very, very aesthetical approach. It's the design of a decade that was surprising. It's the 60s. People still remembered, I mean, the movie people still remembered the glory of the silent cinema, but everybody was also experimenting a lot, even in Soviet Russia. And this is one of the pieces of freedom that got conserved, and seeing it is actually very, very rewarding emotionally and aesthetically.
I wonder if this kind of film could be included in this program in cinemas, when hopefully soon they will open again, in this kind of films for teenagers, because we miss content for them. I mean, maybe one idea is to, you know, to dig and to search for this kind of films, because it's in the same time you also, you know, like put into light this heritage and what you have important in the cinema, and in the same time you find good content to show and to discuss about this after the screening, because yeah, nowadays I miss this kind of content.
Well, it was rare kind of content, and now as everything tends to be organized and reorganized and reconsidered, and everything in cinema seems to be changing, one can only hope that this kind of presenting a piece of somebody's life without making an enormous action film or a devastating tragedy or a very political motivated film, just presenting it as it happens to most people. The first love that you didn't even realize was the first love because you were still a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I can hope that this kind of subjects will get some young directors to have them properly put on screen. Also, it's something that I noticed with the young generations of directors. The length of the feature films is becoming less. So on one side, you have the Hollywood Marvel empire that has everything that's 2 hours and 45 minutes or 3 hours. And you have the art cinema that actually seems to be overblown in terms of length. Like most recent art films are 2 hours and a half, 3 hours and a half. And this length, like 1 hour and a bit, is so proper for a very, very nice film that does what the film should do and impresses the viewer. And I can also hope we'll get more teenage and pre-teenage stories that are served to us as an audience with this warm heart feeling of sharing something that is a bubble of somebody's life.
Mm-hmm. I think this can be also a risk for some of nowadays filmmakers, because when you take such a subject and such a plot, which is not, like under the standards of I don't know, American scripts, or I don't know, a lot of actions, and it's more engineering. I think the risk is that you can have it artificial, bring the artificial thing into the film. But in this case, I mean, you really think that everything is very authentic. Maybe that's why you told about neorealism, and yeah, because it's something that it can't be. It's not false. You feel that the author really expressed in a honor way, not only the subject itself, but the director and the crew was, like, in a way that very interesting. Because yeah, what do you think? I think this can be also a discussion about artificial and authenticity, because it's you have to find a balance. Yeah.
It's also about two things that directors have, because you have it, I have it, everybody has it. First of all, it's experience, and second is honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And honesty, you can just say authenticity, because if somebody is familiar with the subject,
Mm-hmm.
that can be seen in a film. And this thing that is called realism or social realism or whatever you want to call it, it's not always resulting from personal experience. And you get some subjects that are written and shot in a manner that tells you that the director did not actually live those feelings or understood the people he's using as characters in his film. And this is happening more or less often in European cinema. But on the other hand, we are now at a moment of change. So what we can hope is that some people will get to see The Girl and the Echo, or similar films, because it is in a very small league, but it's not one of a kind, a properly done pre-teenage film. And we'll learn the lessons that these films actually display in full view. It's not a secret formula. It's just a mixture of honesty and some soul there, and not trying to make it a movie about something except the characters.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, Cristi. I think we covered somehow. I would like to thank to Lithuanian Film Center, because we had their support in bringing this film to you, and to the embassy, to the Lithuanian embassy in Romania, but also to the embassy of Romania and Lithuania, because both helped us and spread the word about the films. So thank you so much. And tomorrow we will have another round of good films. Don't forget that it's Filmmaker, so it's time to meet. After each screening, we will have the Q&A. We will have the second collection of short films and the Romanian film, The Oak. So have a good night now, or maybe my colleagues will tell me, no, please tell to the people who is watching now that now at 11 o'clock we will meet at National Cocktails with a focus on Lithuania, actually. So if you are not so tired and you want to join our, let's say, discussion, because it will be a Zoom discussion still, please come. More information on our Facebook page. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Cristi, and see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.